Whoa, coming in big. There we go. How are you, Katie?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, thanks. There's Craig coming in twice. Hello, my friend.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing all right.
Good stuff. Allison is going to join us at the half hour because she had a meeting she could not get out of. So it's just going to be us. And Katie, I'm going to put you on deck. Since we didn't get to you last time, we're going to start off with you today. But I just had something happen, and I just want to share it with you because just the way everything evolves. So, long story short, here goes. I had recently read an article in Time online about the Great Resignation. And in the article, there was a quote from an assistant professor at the University of Georgia who talked about burnout and COVID and how, burnout wasn't anything new, but COVID certainly amplified and put a spotlight on the whole issue for what burnout is. So, and I found her on LinkedIn and everything, and I thought, I'm just going to go for the ask. So I sent her a connection request on LinkedIn and I said, dear Melissa, I saw this article about you. I saw you quoted this article in Time, really enjoyed it. After looking at your profile and the work you do in IO psychology, particularly with burnout in the workplace, would love to connect. She immediately connected. We exchanged a few messages and I said, hey, by the way, I have this podcast. Would you be interested in having a conversation with me about possibly being a guest? She wrote me back and she said, let me listen to it first. Okay, not a problem. Sent her a few links. I just got off the phone with her. Like we just had a Zoom. I just got off the phone with her. We had a great conversation. We flushed out all the details for the podcast and everything. And when we finished, she said this, I have to ask you a question. I think I may know the answer, but I advocate for women and I advocate for people in general that they have to know their worth. Is there an opportunity to be compensated for guesting on your podcast? And I said, thank you so much for asking that question. I appreciate it. I said, unfortunately, I do not compensate my guests because I give them the platform to come on and talk about their expertise. I certainly appreciate the question, but I don't pay my guests. And she said, I'm going to do it anyway. I just had to ask the question because I feel it's important to know our worth.
That's awesome.
I said, thank you so much. That's great. So yeah. So I thought, you know what? And she flowed into it really easily. It wasn't uncomfortable. It wasn't a pressure. But I thought, if we all could just have these conversations when it comes to salaries and raises and bonuses, might just make it a little bit easier. So
yeah.
So, and I think she's a yes. I think we fleshed out some really good things about burnout, feeling a little demoralized in your career and how to navigate through that. And she does a lot of research around workaholism. So workaholics and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So we know nothing about that, right?
No, I can't relate to that at all.
Exactly. Hey, Craig, belated happy birthday or happy birthday once again.
Thank you.
You having a good time?
Happy birthday. When was it?
Yesterday.
Ah, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Good stuff. Your folks still there with you?
Anything fun?
Yeah, my parents are still here. They're staying until Monday next week. And we're having, my wife is having a little baby shower with the neighbors on Saturday. So that's going to be pretty cool. So we're looking forward to that. I'm sorry, what did you say, Katie?
Oh, I asked if you did anything fun, but if your parents are there, I guess that is fun.
Yeah. I mean, we just went out to dinner last night and just, being able to spend time with them is the best gift I can get. So,
yeah.
And they live far away. So
Cash,
it was a good day.
cash is great.
Yes, that was a part of the birthday, which is always helpful and appreciated. I won't turn it down.
Good stuff. Katie, give us the update. What's going on with you and everything?
Well, last week I was back in Happy Valley again.
Okay.
So I was there for the week working and then worked the football game. The football game is quite possibly the coldest I have ever been in my life. It was like a real feel of 31 during the game with a very strong wind.
Wow. Okay.
Wind went through every layer I had on. Like I was prepared, still didn't matter. Yeah, it was an interesting week. We're this is kind of the end of football season. And so now we're trying to figure out, okay, what are our next priorities and trying to figure out how do we have the biggest impact that we can have, and the impact that we know that we want to have. So, but there were a couple of good wins. Like I had somebody that was irate a couple of weeks ago and cursing out everything under the sun of he didn't like the way the mobile ticket process was working. And so ended up having somebody from the ticket office reach out to him, and he came up to me afterwards and said, "Hey, I got in today, no problems getting in, and really appreciated the fact that somebody contacted me from the ticket office. So thanks for everything." So that was a good win.
Okay.
Yeah. Felt good to hear that. So it's nice to see that some of the stuff that we're doing has an impact. It's on a small scale right now and just trying to get it to a little bit of a bigger scale.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. What's something we can help you with today?
So one of the things that we're challenged with is there's a lot that we're not a part of. And I know this is normal with consulting, is like you're in a lot of meetings, you do a lot of work with a client, but there's things that happen internally that you don't hear about. And that's one of the things that we're trying to figure out is we hear things 3 weeks later and it's like, well, why didn't you tell us that? We could have helped fix that problem. That's not how that was intended, those kinds of things. Or, something that may be a priority for us is not necessarily a priority for them, and just trying to get aligned. That's where we currently sit.
So what do you have control over in all of that?
We have control over getting to the right people. It's getting those people to then have meetings with us. And that can be somewhat of a challenge. I mean, there are several individuals that I'll email multiple times, don't get a response. I'll text them, try to meet with them in person while I was in town. That didn't work. So, we're getting to some of the right people, but we're not getting to all the most crucial people. As my boss told me yesterday, that's consulting 101.
Yeah. Because to your point, right, it can be a little frustrating that you're always having meetings that are kind of tangential to the ones you need to be having.
Correct.
Right? Like if you could just get 15, 30 minutes, a lot of stuff could get solved, but you're just not there at the table.
Yes.
Yeah. So what are some things organizationally you all are doing to help that?
Yesterday we have a once a month meeting with a group that we call the core team. And they're kind of the ones that we can speak kind of frankly and honestly with and ask, what are the problems? How do we fix these kinds of things? And it was even kind of acknowledged in that meeting, like with the client, there's some people that don't view this as a priority, which is evident by the fact that they can't show up to a once a month meeting, even though it's set on the calendar. I mean, this is a recurring meeting on the calendar for the entire year. And so how do we fix that? How do we make it a priority, the work that we're doing for the client? It's a priority for us. It's a priority for some people, but it's not necessarily a priority for some of the major players that we need to get the work done.
What do you think's getting in the way of some of those major players from coming to the meeting?
I don't know. And that's kind of what I keep coming back to. And that's the question that I ask my boss a lot is, or say to my boss a lot, is that I wish I could get answered is I just want to know the why. And I don't know how to get to the why.
How much do you need to know the why?
I feel like if I know the why, then I can fix whatever the problem is. You know, just knowing the what, you know, if it's the meeting time doesn't work, that's one thing. But they're not telling us that. So I don't think it's the meeting time. There's something else going on, and that more gets to the why than the what.
Okay. Thanks for the clarity on that. One of my first jobs I ever held was in alcohol rehabilitation. I sat in a very tiny office, and 3 times a week, 150 people would walk into my office and they would blow in the breathalyzer machine, and I would record their blood alcohol level, and I would submit all of that for insurance purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And come hell or high water, those people had to find a way to get into that room and blow into my machine because it was a priority for them. Mm-hmm. Right. And for people who are going through recovery, and I don't know if you know anybody in your life who's an alcoholic or, you know, with any kind of substance abuse or whatever, but part of the recovery is that that's the priority. Nothing else is allowed to get in the way. So people will make things a priority when they understand the importance of it, right? Mm-hmm. As an athlete, you find time to train. It's non-negotiable, right? So there's something that's getting in the way that's blocking them from being at this meeting. And it may be themselves. It mm-hmm. may be they're triple booked. There's some reason, right? So to your point, if you can identify the why, does that then, or how well does that allow you to get the result that you want? Like, is the why the be all and end all solution that's going to get people to be at this meeting?
I don't know if it's going to get them to the meeting, but we might understand the cultural barriers that we're up against. You know,
what might they be?
If this is not a priority organizationally wide, then are we swimming uphill without a paddle, you know, swimming up creek without a paddle and trying to force something that is not a priority for the organization? Mm-hmm. You know, and then, you know, do we need to change our approach? Do we need to go all the way to the top and kind of rebuild our case for being there?
Craig, got any thoughts?
This is a good one.
Yeah. It's okay if you don't have anything.
Come back to me.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have anything right now.
That's okay. That's all good.
The only thing I'd probably just ask, you know, the people mm-hmm. that are not joining that you want on, I would just ask them. I mean, there's a lot of meetings that I've been involved with that had absolutely nothing to do with sales. And I would always ask myself, why am I here? And then I would get, you know, I needed to free up my time to be somewhere else that really mattered. So I guess, I don't know, that's what I would probably do, is ask why wouldn't they be able to join the call, you know, to get an understanding. Mm-hmm. I can be kind of blunt.
Sometimes the most obvious question, right? Like sometimes it's just a matter of like, why aren't y'all coming to the meeting? Like,
yeah.
Like we need you here at this meeting. you're all not coming. What's going on that you're not coming to the meeting?
Yep.
Right? This way, then we're not dodging anything, right? We're coming right out and asking the question. Now, you might say, like, you might frame it or contextualize it in, we have this meeting with the core team once a month. It's really important that everybody is there at this meeting in order for us to accomplish A, B, and C.
Mm-hmm.
For the past couple of months, y'all haven't been coming to the meeting. Can you tell me why? And then hold the space.
Yeah.
See what they say, and then let that inform what may happen next. If we look at the energy leadership model, a lot of this happens at levels 1 and 2, and it's why our stress reaction gets to be so high. So part of what happens is that we ruminate on things.
Mm-hmm.
We ruminate in our mind. We keep going over and over and over again about, like, what would be the reason why? And so it causes us to speculate without having any concrete data. Now, every energy level serves us well at some point. So the ruminating is preparing us for having the conversation. If they say A, then I say this. If they say B, then I say this. If they say C, then I say this. So it serves us in the capacity of helping prepare us for the conversation. It's the constant ruminating over and over and over again that isn't going to help us. It's what elevates the stress reaction in that. So
Okay.
how do we alleviate the stress? We either address it head on, or we find a resolution with it that we don't do anything with it.
Yeah.
My time, energy, I'm not going to ask for it. Okay. Like you kind of pick where the fruit is on the tree and decide if you want to go after it or not. Right? How important is it for you to know the reasons why they're not coming to the meeting?
Some of it is that it can help us reshift our focus. Like, depending on who is coming to the meetings, that helps us understand who actually prioritizes the work that we're doing. Because we can work on things all we want. If nobody is going to champion it internally and take it forward, then it's not worth our time to work on those projects. It helps us figure out who is actually going to take the work that we're doing and is going to champion it and is going to move it forward, and that we're working on projects that actually are going to be sustainable.
I'm curious, is it possible that somebody could send a replacement?
A replacement for what?
Like, so say Craig needs to be at the meeting.
Yep.
Craig can't go, but he sends me instead. Is that okay?
For some of the meetings, yes. For the core team, not necessarily, because we want that to be the higher. It's usually like individuals who are in leadership positions. So
Okay.
it kind of heads of departments.
Do you think there is an issue with the time?
I don't think so, but I don't know.
Right, okay. So I mean, this is your chance to kind of solve the problem, right? Lean in a little bit to level 3 and be like, okay, so if you're not able to get here, what's in the way? And if something's in the way, how can I make it easier for you to get to the meeting?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we go from that 2 and we shift into 3 and 4, the 3 being, okay, I can understand why you're not able to get to the meeting. I need you there. Level 4, how can I help you find a time, or how can we have this meeting at a better time where you can absolutely be there and hold that meeting of the utmost importance and priority that you're going to show up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. And then if they turn around and they go, well, I'm just really busy, that can send us back to a level one where it's like, I can't win with this person.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, one of the best lines I ever heard about when somebody says, well, I'm just really busy. A friend of mine used to be a VP for a major insurance company. And when people said to him, well, I'm just really busy, he would say, well, that's just another way of calling yourself an asshole. So when are we going to meet? And I was like, do you ever end up in HR over that? He goes, not yet. Like, wow. Okay.
All
right.
right.
I mean, look, we're all busy.
Right.
It sounds like what you need to do, and Craig, like paralleling this, like similar conversations we had with you 2 weeks ago about getting your team to prioritize making calls and going after, and getting sales and bringing in new business and stuff. It's really about making sure that this time is going to be held with fidelity, and it's going to be done because everybody's on the same page about how important it is. Because if it's not important to them, they don't have the buy-in. If they don't have the buy-in, you can't get the stuff done that you want.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Is this helpful?
Yes.
Okay. So what's your plan of attack then?
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk with my boss and see, do we throw it out there of, do we change the meeting time or suggest a different meeting time so that we can get more individuals involved, so that this is a more productive meeting.
Okay. Got it. Okay. When do you think you can do that?
I've got time with him today, so.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Craig, any other thoughts on this?
Don't.
Okay.
I think it's good.
Are you at any games this weekend, Katie?
I am not. It is my first weekend off and home. And
Nice.
I don't know how long.
Now, do you have to work Thanksgiving?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you get 2 weekends home then?
We're traveling for Thanksgiving,
Okay.
so I'll be on the road for the week for next week, but yeah, I will actually have a solid 8 days at home, which is like the longest stretch I have had home in 3 months.
Good for you.
Yeah. Good
for you.
I'm like counting down the hours to Saturday when I have an excuse to not leave my couch. I am not leaving my house on Saturday.
You. Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. How would you say, like, so knowing you've got some time at home, like how has the work-life balance thing been for you now that you're home a little bit? Or how do you think it's gonna...
It does not exist.
Okay.
And like I drove home Sunday, got started laundry and had to build a podcast to go out at 7 a.m. Monday morning. So I was still working until midnight on Sunday night. Yeah.
Okay.
Work, when you were talking about workaholics, I related to that very, very much so lately.
Yeah. Yeah, it's okay to be busy.
Yeah.
Right. Just, finding those things to, take care of yourself. Are you sleeping any better?
Sort of.
Okay.
Today I gave myself permission to sleep in until 8:30, so that helped to get like 8 hours of sleep.
You got an extra half hour. I gave myself permission to sleep in at 8.
Yeah.
Greg, your days of sleeping in are going to be done in about 3-4 months.
I know. I got it made. I normally, my day usually I get up at 8:30, so
Yeah.
every day. But ever since the time change, I've been getting up at like 7:30. So I still, just for whatever reason, don't seem to adjust. My internal clock keeps going off at that time.
But
Um,
who knows what's going to happen in about 14 weeks. So I'll be up every 2-3 hours, I would imagine, or maybe even more.
Was
So-
this your
We'll
first?
see. Yep.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Katie, Craig and I have a mutual friend, Ken. And when Ken's first son was born, I met him at the hospital with a boombox and a sandwich so he could listen to the Yankees game while his wife was delivering. And when I passed everything off to him, he said to me, Johnny, this is going to be the last time I'm going to be able to sleep in for the next 18 years. So, and side note for us Yankee fans, Kenny's dear friend Ed Lucas, who was the reporter for the Yankees I told you about that was blind, he passed away last week. So he passed
Oh.
away at 82 or 84. The Yankees did some nice tributes for him. Craig, I don't know if you saw anything about it, but they did some nice things for him. And Ken got to see him about a week or so before he passed, and that was nice. So yeah.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
That's too bad.
Yeah, the Yankees did some nice things for him. So, Craig, while we're waiting for Allison to come in, want to give us a little update on how things are for you and what we talked about a couple weeks ago? And is your team behaving? Are they getting calls?
It depends on the day.
Okay.
Depends on the day. Things are overall pretty good. I've been able to finally work with my old employer to get some additional resources to help us put in some leads into our system. So that should free up more time for the team to make more phone calls.
Mhm.
I was on a call last Friday, got chewed out, and I gave it to my team, and we're making phone calls.
Nice.
Not the type of conversations I want to be having, but they're moving. They're hustling now. Can't be that doormat.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Things better after that phone call for you and the person you had it with?
Yeah, man, it's just pretty straightforward. Get it done.
Okay.
So we're doing well. I mean, we're pacing well, but my concern is holidays coming up. So Thanksgiving next week, then we're moving on to Christmas and New Year's. So we need to be ahead of the game because it's going to be harder to get in touch with families.
Okay.
So, but we're doing all right. We're 40%, 42% to our goal for January 1st. So,
Okay.
we're pacing a little like 5% above pace.
All right.
Oh, that's good.
Better than
Not
what it
anything
was.
crazy. Yes. Yeah. So it's better. I know my old employer, they have their launch here in Texas too. Considering the size of what they're launching, they're not killing it.
Mhm.
So
Well, that's because you're not there.
that's right. That's right.
Got it.
So
Do you have
yeah,
any-
no, I'm happy. Again, just I just like to. There can be opportunities for more. Just making sure they get to it.
Do you have anything Katie and I can help you with today you want to bring up and discuss?
I don't think so. Not actually. I feel like everything's kind of status quo as for now until it's Tuesday. I feel like some of the fire drill I guarantee next week and the week after will be a lot different, just because we're wrapping up our year end
Mhm.
and still trying to launch and maintain. So we're doing okay for our launch, but we're not doing very well for the last month of our year. But again, we'll be kicking it in gear. I've asked my team to send me some stuff, some projections and things of that nature to get a better understanding of where they're at. And the COO was very clear that if the nursing homes aren't giving us what we need, I need to call him or I need to call the homes and three-way him in. And that won't be good. So I'm just trying to avoid that at all possible. Because they'll flat out just fire people.
Yeah.
For
Where's
not
your
doing
stress
it.
level been?
I feel pretty good, actually. The reason why is because I got I got my dog sitting with me.
Oh,
She sits with me on my lap, keeps me calm.
nice.
Nice.
It's Rosie, right?
Yep,
Rosie. Okay.
little Rosie.
Cool.
She's going to be in the world for change too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, she's no longer the
Yeah.
star of the house.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
Stuff.
right.
So I'm curious, is it just the phone call that you had that changed, or did you end up having to put anybody on performance plans, or what
I
what
didn't
has
move
kind of
towards any
ignited the
performance
fire in
plan.
your team?
I just basically said I got off the call. It wasn't very good. Everybody needs to get their act together and get going and get it done. All of you guys get into the nursing homes and make it happen. And make sure you have a plan to me by the end of the day today for next week. And they did it. Probably because they've been in a meeting with this other executive with the nursing home side, and he's just not my management style, but he's pretty forceful. So, I try to stay ahead of the game in terms of having to send him stuff and get out reports, because again, even though like I said, we're pacing well and we're doing well, he's, it's the never satisfied mentality, which it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Keeps you moving forward. That's how I operate. But again, my word tracking might be a little bit different. Where he's really straightforward.
Can
Yeah.
you give us an example?
I don't think I can. I don't think I can I don't know how I can frame it to,
Is it colorful language?
yes. Yeah. Yeah. Very. So I was just saying, like, get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Explicit. Yeah.
So here's the thing, right? Because I loved Katie's question. There seems like it sounds like, Craig, that was the catalyst, the impetus, the motivator that kind of kicked things in line a little bit. And I'm curious from your standpoint was that necessary?
I mean, I think there's three types of people. Some people need to be left alone. Some people need to be patted on the back, and some people need to be kicked in the rear. And I think they all needed a kick in the rear.
Yeah.
So I think maybe it coming from somebody else. I mean, they know, like we talked about 2 weeks ago, they know I've let two people go within a pretty quick time frame, that they would understand the seriousness of the level of work that we need to do and accomplish. But like, this guy's much more who's getting fired, who's going to get fired today. Like, what do we need to do to make an immediate impact? Like, where you're just like, well, so like I said, it's working. We'll see what happens. Again, I don't want that to impact them negatively, I guess, to make it more stressful on them to get the job done, but just to do it.
Okay, so break this down for us. Hey, Allison. All right, so Craig, break this down for us. Energetically, was this for where and how you are showing up? Is it more of a level 4 in you trying to take care of your team after the blow up? Is it more of a level 5 of them to see there's an opportunity for you to really be at your best? Or is it a level 3, which is y'all needed a kick in the butt and you got it, now get the work done so we never have to do this again?
3.
Yeah. What do you think, Katie?
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like a 3.
Yeah, absolutely more of a primary 3. Like there's always going to be elements of the other energy levels that factor in all of this, because at the end of the day, we still want to take care of the people we're working with, and that's where the level 4 shows up. Sometimes, while not ideal, the kick in the rear is what needs to happen. It's what jars you a little bit, right? It's what kind of shakes you up a little bit and go, oh, I probably should like do a better job, kind of a thing. I think we have to be careful of, in the positions you're in, where in this kind of middle management role, you buffer a lot. Right? So we never want that leader to be coming at us and yelling and screaming and cursing, and, you know, because then after a while, it's just not gonna have the same kind of effect. It's like the coach on the team that yells at their players all the time. So after a while, they're like, all right, coach is pissed off again. That's just what it is. Right? But if we can contextualize it in terms of that level 3 experience, part of it also becomes knowing we just never want to get to that place again. Would you agree?
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like it.
No, of course not. You don't want to get chewed out on the phone and all that kind of. Nobody likes that. I don't know
Wasn't
anybody
just
that
me,
wakes
though.
up in the
It
morning
was
and goes,
everybody.
chewed out today.
It's like seven people.
Yeah.
It got real quiet real quick.
Oh, sure. And on a Friday, heck yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. Allison, how are you? You're on mute. Or we can't hear you.
I don't hear.
Yeah.
I think she's trying to figure out the mic settings.
That's why I have to dial in. I still can't, for the life of me, figure out my computer audio when I come on.
Your
Zoom.
IT
Doesn't wanna
department
work.
stinks.
Yep.
My browser is preventing access to my microphone.
Oh, that's fun.
That's fun. Can you hear us? Actually,
She frozen now?
oh wow, maybe she is.
Yeah.
You'll know if I'm frozen. I can't sit still.
Yeah, she's gonna hear us. I may need to turn. I've had it where I've frozen and I have to turn my camera off and turn it back on again type thing. It happens probably 50% of my calls. And it just kind of goes away after that. All right, let's see. We have to hear about all the good things going on at Monster. All right, let's see. Give her a second to get back in here. See if she emailed me. Nope, nothing there. Here she comes.
All right, I'm back.
Yay!
Can you hear me?
We can hear
So
you. Yes.
there was a little prompt when I relogged in that says browser wants permission or Zoom wants permission to use your microphone, and I had to click yes. I guess I clicked no before.
Okay.
Sorry about that, but
That's all
Craig,
right.
it sounded really great with you. I was really interested to hear what happened after last week, and I apologize to everyone for having to join late. I let you know, John, I had that executive meeting.
Yep. How'd everything go?
It went well.
Good.
I didn't have to say a word. It was great. I just had to listen quietly. I still don't have my clearance
Right.
for VA, which is why I can't really take over the project.
Okay.
And there was a holdup on the VA side. Someone, I guess the person in charge of the clearances, she was in a car accident, unfortunately. And I guess her backup didn't pick up her work. And so when we followed up, I think it's been like 2 or 3 weeks. So we had to follow up with him, and now we're waiting again. But he told me, I guess there's a person on my side who told me that it's taken as long as 6 months to get a clearance through the VA in the past. I guess they're particularly slow. I don't know why, but it is what it is. I'm fine with it.
Yeah. Oh, sure. So, we wanted to spend a little time with you just because we haven't had a chance to talk to you specifically in the last couple of sessions. So tell us how things are going with the job or how we can help you today, and fire away.
Things are going great so far. I think in order to really, I guess, get a handle on things, what I've had to do is just kind of jump in, not knowing anything, reviewing documentation, providing feedback on things. And an example was, apparently there was a pilot, and we have pilot feedback, but this pilot feedback has not been addressed, and the document date on it was October. So I just started going through it and adding my comments, and took the bull by the horns and said, okay, we need to get this addressed, because that was my question. It's November 16th. This feedback is from the beginning of October. Why aren't the comments addressed at this point? So I just took things over and started pushing it forward. To get answers from the appropriate product people, add my own comments about potential enhancements that we could implement in response to some of the comments. And then in other cases, suggest that the customer actually show us what they are looking at before providing any feedback. Kind of, I guess one of the challenges with this particular customer, from what I've heard, is that there's really not a champion of the system on their side. So they have a bunch of people making comments, but they don't know how the system works. So there's a knowledge gap there.
Okay.
And so I'm kind of learning these things as we go along. But as you know, there's a whole political aspect of this in terms of how that piece can and cannot be handled. So I've just kind of been listening and getting ideas, jotting them down on paper. And then I had a meeting with, not my boss, but basically the person I've been working with. He has this account, just kind of reviewing where I thought we were with all of the individual projects for this customer, which he said I was spot on, which is great. Because it just reinforces that I am hearing correctly and I do have a good understanding. And then during that session, I proposed to him, I reviewed the feedback and I said, hey, this is from October. It doesn't look like this is closed out. This is my thought. Would it be possible for you to set up a meeting with this guy, Robert, so he can show us what he's talking about in these comments? Because some of his comments don't make sense. So force him to kind of show us what he's talking about, versus taking a comment from someone else within the organization and not really understanding what that comment is, or attempting to filter it before it comes to Monster. Does that make sense? Like, it's a bunch of people throwing comments on a spreadsheet, but no one's taking ownership for those comments, reviewing them, and taking those off the list where it's clear that the person does not understand the functionality and how it's supposed to work. So kind of throwing the ball in their court.
So who then is the owner of all of that?
See, that's a good question. I don't know. Okay. That's an answer I need to get. I don't know who owns this, because I'm still not clear on, apparently there are multiple comment sheets from this pilot, right? And I only have seen one. So I don't even know where the rest of the comment sheets are. The other thing too that I've noticed is that people are emailing documents, and that's a big no-no to me. I'm a proponent of
Before that
providing
stuff
a link.
happening, right?
Right. If you have a bunch of documents floating around, right, that's ridiculous. They should be in SharePoint.
Mhm.
So as a process improvement, later when I'm able to, that's one of the things I'm going to talk to them about and say, hey, this can be very dangerous. And I can understand why there's so much miscommunication when you have 15 versions of the same document and half of them, more than half of them are in emails. How am I supposed to find those?
Mhm.
Right? It means we're going to be missing something. So when I asked product to comment, I provided a link to the document and I said, please make your comments within the document. For whatever reason, she saved a copy to her desktop, added her initials, emailed it back to me, and I'm like, wow. Because the instructions were pretty explicit, you know what I'm saying? But I can see it's honestly, it's organizational habit. It's what they all do,
Mhm.
right? But now that they're converting to, and I really don't know what the difference is. They keep talking about MDocs. Are you familiar with MDocs at all? Have you heard of that?
I am not. Anybody else? No.
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Oh. They're converting to MDocs. It looks a lot like SharePoint. I'm not clear on what the differences are. I think the main difference that I understand is that MDocs is FedRAMP approved. And
Okay.
right now they're in the process of getting FedRAMP approved for all of our applications. But anyway, long story short, I just have been noting down process changes and putting those in my back pocket. And then when the time's right, I will bring those up. Right now, the time is not necessarily the best. Or when I meet with my boss, which I have meetings set up with her now twice weekly, to
Wow.
meet with her and kind of review, I have my list of questions. So I'll bring the question to her and say, what are your thoughts?
Mhm.
Maybe what's a way that we could go about changing this particular behavior, right, internally? Because the other thing I worry about is people making changes on their desktop and they get hit by the proverbial bus. That's
Yeah.
the example I always use. Then we never have, it's stuck on that person's desktop
Yeah.
and we're missing stuff. And they're honestly with a program like SharePoint or MDocs, there's no reason not to just make the comments directly in the document in SharePoint. You know what I mean?
Allison, I loved your phrase organizational habit. And I think I'm pretty safe in making this bet that it's something that Katie and Craig can both take that term and kind of think about their own situations and how that applies to them and what they're seeing and everything. For what it's worth, I believe you're 100% right in terms of these documents need to be maintained on SharePoint and edit SharePoint and edited on SharePoint. And can't talk today.
Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers.
Exactly. PowerPoint, SharePoint, all that kind of stuff, right? How are you going to have the fight once you have control of the project to make sure that this compliance is done and followed through?
I think that first of all, the one thing I was told is once I take over the projects, I can have my own file naming conventions. I can do whatever I want. Right?
Okay.
At least when I interact with others, I can tell them I want the comments in SharePoint. And I can handle things the way I've handled them in the past. If you send me a document, I'm going to email it back to you. And I'm going to tell you to add the comments into SharePoint. Not add your file, but you need to modify the file that's already in there. I provided you the link. you need to do that, please. Or sometimes the way I handle it is I have a one-on-one with the person
Mhm.
and, or just, give them a call and say, hey, I noticed you passed back this document to me, you renamed it. In the future, can you just go in and modify the document in SharePoint? It becomes too confusing when you have multiple versions of the same document, because then no one knows what the latest version is.
Mhm.
More importantly, if something happens to you, it's not in SharePoint,
Right.
and all of us suffer because of it.
In the past, have people responded well to that?
Some yes, some no.
The ones who haven't, why not?
Because they're not type A, and they're like, who cares? You know what I mean? Like, I'm a type A personality, so I like my files named. I have a specific naming convention. And I even for previous teams, I've built out document requirements, like a real requirements document that shows you how to save documents, what the file name should be, so that everything remains consistent. Or I'll have a meeting with them on WebEx and I'll show them. I said, I can show them the tree structure and say, can you see a pattern here?
Mhm.
Why would you change the name of your file when you see that all of the files are named the same?
Right.
Is that just to be different?
Or difficult.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Difficult, or you know what I'm saying? But usually when I go through a tree structure and I go through the file naming convention and the folders, all of my folders are exactly the same for each customer.
Mhm.
I'll say, do you see a pattern across customers? They're all the same. So that when we have a new customer, all you do is set up the same file structure and you repeat the process. It's a cookie cutter process, number one. Number two, anyone on the team can go and find what it is they're looking for. And sometimes, again, I think it's people with different personality types. Like, they're like, well, why does it matter
Mhm.
what the folder name is? It's like, it matters because then you can't find what you're looking for if it's not named a certain thing. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm. I mean, it sounds super clean. And obviously, your project, your rules, right? But that's a piece where if we channel the level 2 energy on that, it's just what has to be, right? It's
Right.
your ship. Like, there's just no other way. Like, this is the way it's got to be done.
And
Right?
I've been in a situation before where I've actually built systems from scratch, or I took an existing system and changed it so that it made more sense. And when people saw what I was doing, others that liked it started modeling after it. In another situation, I actually set down the rules and that was it.
Yeah.
Everybody had to follow it regardless of what department. And I would send things back
Mhm.
and make them do the work if it wasn't done properly. That's the biggest thing. And then, of course, they don't like that, but they learn their lesson and they don't do it again.
Exactly. Right. But I mean, we all know this, right? If you've put in the work and you set the structure at the beginning, you don't have to do a lot of cleanup later.
Right. Well, the most important thing is efficiency, right? You want
Yeah.
people to find things quickly, not have to, I don't want to spend 30 minutes looking for, XYZ report.
Is
Yes, but for some people, that was 30 minutes of their day, and that was 30 minutes they
Yes.
didn't have to work on something else.
Oh, Lord.
Yes.
Oh, you mean the ones that don't want to work?
Correct. You
It's-
find those real easily.
Allison,
my
is your
goodness.
process or structure radically different from what you've already seen at Monster?
No, actually, the guy that I'm working with, Michael, he's also type A, so I love him.
Okay.
Like, he's shown me, I wouldn't necessarily name my files the way he has, but I understand the naming convention, right?
Mm-hmm.
The one thing he didn't think about is how order of files and how they display within the folder. For example, I always prefer the most recent report, for example, to display at the top.
Okay.
Well, in order to do that, the date has to be in a certain way, in a certain position in the file to do that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So in the immediate, I have no plans of changing his stuff. And I actually, it's funny that you mentioned that. I mentioned that yesterday. I said, I usually don't change things unless there's a really good reason to do so. And this customer has been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So I have no interest in redoing what he's done. All of the folders are consistent. The file naming conventions are the same. That's all that matters to me.
Mhm.
Once I get in there, I can find what I'm looking for. If I start off a new customer, I may do that differently at that point, but there's no sense in reworking the wheel if you can work with it.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Makes total sense.
Yep.
So I'll leave it for now.
Okay.
That was one question I had is like, for the people who are kind of rebelling, do they understand the benefit to the overall organization and the organizational system versus this is Allison's system and it works for you?
See, that's the thing that you bring an excellent point. And the ones that resist are the ones that choose to see it as that's your system, not necessarily my system. All right.
Yeah.
So the only thing you can do is have that one-on-one WebEx meeting with them, walk through the file structure and show them how it's repeated over and over again. And this is the way we've set it up. This is an organizational, I guess, mandate. Do you have executive leadership supporting you?
Mm-hmm.
Meaning if someone goes above your head and says, I think this is Katie's rules, not the organization's, they'll support you and say, this is the way we do things here. You need to follow what Katie tells you to do. Will they support you?
Yeah.
Well, then you're good. You're golden.
Yep.
But the only thing you can do, like I said, is have that WebEx and say, hey, it's not that I'm trying to be difficult. This is really set up in a way so that we can work the most efficiently as a team, and team members can find easily what they're looking for so that we reduce the amount of time that we spend actually trying to find it. Because I'd rather have you working on X. Finding a document shouldn't take 30 minutes. I've had to have that conversation too.
Yeah.
This shouldn't have taken you 30 minutes to find.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I would expect, in my experience, this should have taken you no more than 2 minutes of your time.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's taking longer than that, then there's something wrong. And we need to review whatever it is that's causing this to take so long. Can you kind of show me some of the challenges you faced and put it on them, have them show you?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. We have this conversation all the time with work. So one of our senior partners, he ran the ESPN Wild World Sports Complex for 20 years and has a lot of organizational efficiencies from working at Disney and working with the ESPN complex. And one of the things that we're trying to do is trying to help organizations be more efficient. And it's like, you don't have to sit and sort credentials for 3 hours leading up to a football game. Like you can have that time back. And I said, I know, but they don't know what to do with that time if they get that 3 hours back. Like this takes up 3 hours of the day. And they're like, well, that's good. That's part of my time that I needed to spend this week. You know, they don't understand the value of time sometimes.
But maybe you taking the time to explain that is a good thing.
Oh yeah.
And you
I
can
mean,
say-
that's
you
what
can
our
say-
organization does. But I said, they just don't know what to do with that time. Like you say, you get 3 hours back and they're like, well, what do I do with that?
Yeah, but can't you give them the list of the things they can look at doing instead?
Yes.
Right. You can say, if it were me, Okay,
Mhm.
now that you have this extra 3 hours, these are the top priority items I would expect you to use your day on, which is far more important and far more beneficial to the organization.
Yeah. I mean,
This
the challenge
really
is
will help us
that
out as a team.
higher education does not reward taking that initiative. You know, you get your standard 2% state raise. There's not bonuses, there's not incentives. So that's one of the things that you're challenged with, is that there isn't necessarily that motivation to maximize your time.
What happened to self-motivation?
Yeah.
What happened to, setting, standards for oneself, and the highest standards, not the
Mhm.
lowest standards? Or I like this one that my son will say. I'll say, "What did you get on your last exam?" "I didn't fail."
It's a good
Like,
barometer.
honestly, seriously, dude?
Yeah.
Or if he gets an A, it was always like a 90.5 or a 91.2. It was like the lowest of the A's. My son is one of those,
Yeah.
where he puts the absolute minimum in to get the A. It's still an A, Mom. I still have a 4.6 GPA or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it's like, do you realize that you are so intelligent that if you, even with you putting in half of the amount of effort that I did in college, you could make 100 on your exam or a 98 on your exam? Why don't we aim for the high 90s, not the low 90s?
Yeah.
Be the best that you can be.
Mhm.
And I said, you may not see it now, but it does make a difference, because you're going to apply this at work, right? And they're going to want to see 110%, not 91%.
Mhm. This is the culture change that my organization is trying to help. It's why I got out.
Yeah.
Oh, you're so funny.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's
no, I got to be respectful of time here, but like, as we just wrap up though, and Allison, if you get a chance to listen to the front part, you're going to hear some similarities in terms of what Katie shared in the focus seat and Craig's update and everything. I mean, we're all kind of dealing with some similar challenges in terms of this organizational lift as people in newer roles, new organizations, and trying to improve, because that's what you all do best, right? So I applaud each and every one of you for keeping this fight going and knowing what quality looks like and getting everybody at the table and getting the results that you need, because that's why you're all here, right? And so we just keep pressing forward with that. I have on my calendar, we are not meeting next week because of the Thanksgiving break, right? So is that still agreeable for everybody?
Okay.
that's fine with
Yep.
me.
Yeah. If you wanted to meet next week, we can. We don't have to.
So, happy early Turkey Day to all you guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving. Safe travels to you and your loved ones. Let's all get back here safely. So we'll meet in 2 weeks. And if you want to put some one-on-one time on the calendar, don't hesitate to do that. And if you have any questions on things, definitely reach out. But super proud of all of you. Keep up the good work.
Thanks, everyone.
Hey,
Done.
See you
See
Thank you.
everybody.
talk to y'all later. Thanks again. All right, bye.